So Phil, who is your day going?
That won't make any sense to you, and it doesn't make much sense to me. I've just moved house recently, so I've had the joys of speaking with lots of different companies over the last few weeks.
Service providers.
None of them get anything right. Sky,
Awful.
EE, BT, they all mess something up. So yeah, the guy on EE chat was persistently asking me, "Who is your day going?" And I wasn't in the mood to entertain it. So that's what Sam means by
What he was
that.
actually trying to say was, who is your service provider? But it was a bit of a Freudian slip. Cause
No, he was trying to say, "How is your day?"
Yeah, but he didn't really care.
Well, of course he doesn't. And then,
But
yeah,
what he really cared was, who's your service provider?
And
So he was getting those two things mixed up.
the angrier I got, the more he tried to sell to me.
So that's another £1.11 a month,
Yes.
Mr. Jones. Is that okay for you?
Yeah. Anyway, don't feel like I've been on the podcast for a while.
You've not had any voice.
Maybe I have in real time in the podcast world.
Yes. No, because I've done quite a few without you.
Have you? So apologies that you've had to put up with Sam for the
Yeah,
whole
I
time.
apologise
Hopefully
too.
she entertained you.
Well, your kids entertained everybody.
I enjoy that podcast. I listen to it. It's how many podcasts have we done? 200?
About 270 or something.
270?
Yeah, it's a lot, yeah.
That was the first podcast I'd ever listened to.
Mine too. I've
So-
never listened to any of our podcast episodes.
I was a bit nervous listening to it.
Were you?
Well, you told me that they were quite harsh on
They
me,
roasted you.
but they didn't really. They were quite nice. Bless them.
So I got Noah and Rosie, age about to be 10 and 7, to tell me all about what they thought of Daddy's job. And some interesting things came out of it. Like they thought Noah thought you bought houses to sell.
Yeah, I mean,
all the money.
Yeah, we do in one section,
It's one section of the business.
but not the majority. I think it's done for the team, because quite a lot of our team listened to it, is they then went home, and those that had kids, and then asked their kids sort of similar questions. And my wife Molly has sort of a list of questions that she asks the kids at certain ages, and then notes them down.
It's fun to do.
It's because she was asking Caspian the questions the other day, and then
Caspian's 3.
we looked back on what Noah and Rosie had said. It was just funny. So yeah, if you have kids, then it's try and get on camera as well, because it's always nice to look back on.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it? When,
I wish I'd had that for my kids. It'd be really fun to do.
So today's podcast is all about the upcoming budget,
Mm-hmm.
the autumn budget.
You're listening to this the first week of October, so there's about 7 weeks to go to the budget.
Yeah, it's a late one this year. So it's the autumn budget, but actually it's in winter.
It's the latest they could do it, isn't it? They have to do it in November, I think.
I don't know if that's actually a rule.
Always has been, though, hasn't it? When we've looked back at all the dates over the years.
When we've looked, I always think of it as October. And majority of the time it is the end of October, mid to end of October. Sometimes it's slipped into November.
I think it's the latest it's been for about 10 years or so.
Yes, yeah, it has. And I think what has happened, reading between the lines, is that these rumours that we're going to discuss sort of came out over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. And then since then, there's been quite a lot of scandal, and now Trump's here, and lots of different things have gone on. So it's sort of gone quiet on the budget. And then just as the scandal were going on, they thought, we haven't got enough rumours out there to test the water to find an answer to our black hole. So let's put it back. So November the 26th, which I don't think is good, because it is good for us as an industry, because any uncertainty sort of leads to questions and
It leads to jittery buyers and sellers, doesn't it, ultimately?
Yeah, and what we're seeing at the moment is more sellers and potential sellers are asking the questions as opposed to buyers.
What kind of questions are they asking?
Just things like, with the certain rumours, and we'll go through them, is there any point in being on the market now? Especially right at the top end. You know, if some of these things came in, it would cost either them potentially millions, or the buyers make it just impossible. So therefore, their belief is that others in their position of wealth will look at this and go, actually, let's just wait and see.
And that's just not what you want, is it? You don't want anybody saying, let's wait and see for anything. You just want people just to actually go ahead and say, wait and see. Transact.
No. So let's go through them. We'll start with that one because we talked about it. The capital gains tax on high value homes. So Chancellor Reeves is reportedly considering removing CGT exemptions on primary residences worth over 1.5 million to raise revenue from asset gains.
Now, you might have missed this because I was just talking to a friend of ours, mine and yours, and she's got plenty of property and she had missed that. She had not seen that. So I don't think it's been heavily reported, has it?
No, it was reported in the Times, and it was reported probably 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. And well, first of all, yeah, we'll talk about what the impacts could be before we talk about if you think it's going to happen.
First of all, let's talk about what it is. So I'm sure you know, if you're listening to this podcast, that you have an exemption for capital gains tax on your primary residence. So
no matter the value.
No matter the value, no matter how much profit you make, no matter how long you've lived in it, all those kind of things, you can turn it round in 6 months. Has been precedent recently for somebody who did turn a property in 6 months, turned a very good profit on the primary residence. It was flagged up by HMRC. They took them to court, and the homeowners won that case and said that they'd never been their intention to sell, but they had a change in circumstances and they decided to sell. And so if this is you and you've made a profit on your house or houses, as many, many of us have, then this is something that would directly affect anybody that's got a house worth $1.5 million or more.
Yeah, it would. And just, we've discussed this quite a lot over the last couple of weeks. One thing we probably haven't mentioned is what it would do for the rental market. Because if all of a sudden you were having to pay huge CGT on, if you bought a house for £1 million, in a year's time, it's probably going to be worth nearly 2. You're going to pay a hefty CGT on that. You may as well just rent somewhere.
And keep it and rent it out.
Well, yes, keep it and rent it out, but also for the person who's going to rent it, it's better for them to rent than buy it.
So what it might do, it might be an influx of properties in the high-end rental sector, which we haven't had for a long time.
Yeah, well,
because usually they don't wash their face, do they? If you've got a property that's worth a couple of million or more, usually renting it out is not enough to pay for your costs of owning the house.
Yeah, I think overall it would be a complete disaster for us, definitely.
I think it's morally unfair.
And yeah, and for the we've got people that have got homes worth 7.5 million, 10 million that bought them 20 years ago for 1 million. Like that's a bit of a profit, but
why should the government gain when that person has probably scraped and scrimped to get that money together to buy it and bought at the right time in the right location?
It's the same argument though for every tax, isn't it? It's just that inheritance tax is a good example. Inheritance tax is embedded. Everyone accepts it, or not everyone, but it's accepted as a cost, isn't it?
I think that's slightly fairer. I still don't like the fact that sometimes a child that's inheriting it has to sell their family home.
Yeah.
But where else are you possibly going to get that amount of revenue from individuals other than inheritance tax?
Well, here.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it would be a disaster for the housing market. It would cause all sorts of pricing issues because there wouldn't be any much benefit in selling for over 1.5 million. So there'd be a huge gulf between houses at 1.5 million and the next house will probably be at 2 million because they're trying to. The seller wants to protect their tax implications, I guess. But ultimately, all the research I can do on it, even I didn't want to make this political, but even they have thought this isn't a goer.
They being Labour.
They being Labour. So even they probably understand the impacts. So if you haven't seen it, the reason why you probably haven't seen it is because it was shut down fairly early on, and I don't think it's got a chance. Yeah. But we still have owners, even now, they've come off the market in the last week or so because they fear that it's going to come in. I think if it did come in, and I don't want to backtrack because I don't think it will, but if it did, it would probably be an April time frame. which would potentially open up a vacuum for people at that value to sell. So
I think it would
that
need.
would cause mayhem.
I think it needs a longer time frame than that.
Yeah, it just won't come in.
No, it's not going to come in. So we'll move on. So that's a rumour, but we don't think that's going to happen.
No, national insurance on rental income. So a major shift on the table is the proposal to extend national insurance contributions to rental income, a move that could raise an estimated £2 billion. This would affect many landlords who currently benefit from NIC exemption on property earnings, potentially influencing rent prices and supply. So they're going to add an 8% national insurance charge onto rental incomes.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is an easy win for them, for their audience.
So it's basically unearned income that at the moment isn't subject to NIC, and then it would be.
Their headline for this budget, I believe, is to target what they define as unearned income.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an open goal for them, where they don't like people owning more than one property, or their audience don't like people owning more than one property.
Their voters.
Their voters. They struggle to understand the concept of making a profit on rent, and therefore, and the people living in the house shouldn't have to pay X amount to live there, and therefore making money and taxing that profit is something they're going to do. What they don't see, or well, apparently they don't see, is it's going to push rents up further.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the gap between what they're paying, what the rent is, and what their mortgage is, and what their profit is, and it all of a sudden changes their lifestyle and etc., then they're just going to increase the rent by 10%.
So they're trying to hurt the landlords, but actually going to hurt the tenants.
Which is always the way.
Always. And then they're going to have to pay more money out in housing benefit and all those kind of things. So.
Yeah, and what we've seen over the last year is that landlords will go, you know what, I can't bother with this. With everything coming in, the renter's bill, and a lot of landlords are getting out, so that puts rents up even further. So...
because what you're doing is you're creating scarcity of rental properties, which is only ever going to put the rents up.
Yeah, I mean, for every move they make, there's going to be a counter action, isn't there? And they, to be fair to them, they have to try and balance that.
But the way I see it, though, is if they made rents really affordable and they incentivise landlords to buy more properties and make rents even more affordable, and then yes, we'd have obviously big landlords, and that's what they're trying to. I know that's what they're trying to avoid, people that have got like 100 properties or whatever, and then you start to have a stranglehold in an area. But actually, if you take it to its ultimate conclusion, if rents were cheaper, then the general working public would have more money in their pockets, which means the economy would thrive in that area. At the moment, rent's so high that not only can people, not rent a property anyway in their areas because they're so unaffordable, or there's so few of them, or both. Usually both. But also, I think that if those rents were affordable, those people could spend in their area, because at the moment they've got no money to spend. The rent takes all their income. I remember my dad saying to me that rent shouldn't take no more than half your income and mortgage should take no more than a third. And those figures are just wildly out now. It's quite common to spend £1,500 a month rent and earn, I don't know, £2,200 a month on minimum wage, isn't it? That's quite common. You've got £700 a month to live on.
Yeah.
That is just how the economy is built, on those kind of properties.
Yeah,
and those kind of incomes.
What's happening with what they're doing is they're pushing sort of that style of a standard rental is probably a 2-bed terrace, isn't it? In the UK, they're pushing those prices down. So do you know who watched a video on this the other day? Do you know who's the biggest private landlord in the UK?
The church?
No, Lloyd's Bank.
Oh,
so and Lloyd's Bank is owned by BlackRock.
Yeah.
Which is a huge.
Yeah.
I think they own a part of it. So what's happening is the bank and a company like BlackRock, with billions and billions of a budget, are picking up all these houses, and they're going to control the rental market, which is going to cause even more problems.
And we don't have any kind of rent control in this country.
No, so rather
they can just push rents up as much as they want.
So rather than people like us owning 20, 30, 40, 50 houses and hopefully doing well for tenants, etc., they're going to have a bank like Lloyd's owning 20% of the property in the country, which is going to cause even more challenges for them.
But going back to the 8%, that is probably just a drop in the ocean with everything else, isn't it? It might just be the thing that causes the landlord to say, right, I'm out.
Yeah, tough. It is a tough balance for them, isn't it? I get that they need. Well, they think they need to find finance somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm at the total other side of it, where don't create finance, create opportunity for people, and that in itself will create finance.
Of course it will. Yeah. Just keep them taxing people. I mean, Labour did that in the 60s, and then I told you, didn't I, that, you know, all the sort of rich list all left the country because nobody could afford to live here. That's why the Beatles left. Did you know that? That's why John Lennon went to live in America. And these really, really big earners during the 60s, they didn't want to pay 90% tax. And that's where we're going again. They're just taxing us in so many different ways.
Yep.
Not that we're a big earner yet.
Council tax and local property tax reform. So potential plans include replacing council tax with a local property tax based on updated property valuation. Whilst this shift might modernise taxation, critics worry it would disproportionately affect specific regions and homeowners, like ours.
Yeah, it would. So the problem is when you've got you've still got minimum wage here, same as everywhere else in the country, but our property prices are probably near enough double what somebody would expect to pay in a different part of the country. You can still get a decent 3-bed semi across, you know, many parts of the country for, I don't know, £750 a month.
750 grand then.
£750 a month. Whereas here, it's going to be more like £1,500 a month because we're competing with the holiday market. And that's the challenge, isn't it? So somebody on minimum wage is going to have to pay a really increased cost for living here because it's a tourist area.
Yeah.
So therefore, when we're talking about council tax or any kind of taxation on the property that you live in, that's got to be taken into account. Just because it's a more expensive house doesn't mean to say that person's
it's a better house.
More. Yeah, it's not a better house. That person hasn't got more disposable income. In fact, they've got the opposite. We're already having to cope with things like increased food prices in our area because of the price for tourists.
Yeah.
And it must be the same in places like the Cotswolds or southwest England.
Yeah, and speaking just on a local point of view or a hotspot point of view, the local politicians are trying to get more locals in houses, so they're restricting holiday lets and making it more difficult to get holiday lets, and the government's doing the same. But the locals can't afford them, so the holiday let owners are trying to sell them. No one's buying them. Mm-hmm. It's just causing a traffic jam that needs to be untangled.
Yeah, because you can't really have a locals only house at £1 million. That makes no sense, does it?
Well, they've tried it. It doesn't work.
No,
it doesn't work. I think the only way this system works, and it was discussed a few years ago, but I'm not sure it ever got any legs, is the way the US do it. So in the US, each state can decide its own taxes, and therefore Florida, which is a tourist state with lots of foreign investors, etc., can go, right, you know what, people are buying property here to rent out, let's put a tax on, I can't remember exactly what it is, it's something like 3%. So if your house is worth $500,000, you'll pay 3% to national government every year, but you don't pay council tax. Mm-hmm. So if that was done in England, then at least they could each area, county, whatever it would be, could stop and look at it and go, right, actually, our property prices are 5 times higher than over there. We need to reduce our percentage compared to Northumberland.
Yeah, it can't just be a percentage.
It can't. If they went 3% across the country, in some areas it would be next to nothing, and across half an hour west or south, it would be 3 times as much for exactly the same. So it can't be a blanket figure.
Say what we need here, just off on a bit of a tangent. I've just come back from the Alps, where everywhere you stay in the Alps, including even campsites, have a tourist tax. Why don't we have a tourist tax here in the Lake District? A £10 tax on every person staying overnight in the Lake District will make a massive difference to local taxation.
Yeah, I don't get it. But why would you want to put or why would you potentially want to put a barrier up to tourists coming?
I wouldn't want to, but I think that they're already spending. They wouldn't notice it. They wouldn't notice it on their hotel bill.
Yeah, I understand that, but going back to what we said before, I don't like the idea of charging people. Why don't we just get more people want to come here? So, which would then push prices up anyway, which would then push wages up.
But if you operated a tourist tax, you wouldn't have to, for example, charge for car parks for locals, because I don't think locals should have to pay for car parking.
It's an interesting idea, and obviously it happens a lot in the States, doesn't it? In the States, you get hit with all sorts.
Well, in the States, you get, if you live in Florida, you get Disney passes and all those kind of things, don't you?
For locals?
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the States, especially sort of New York, Florida, you get hit with a, not a tourist tax, what's it called?
Sales tax
No.
on everything you buy. There is a sales tax there, isn't there?
There is a sales tax.
That's not shown on the ticket price.
Because it's different in each state, I think that's the reason.
Right. What kind of tax is it?
The tax of where you staying. They claim it's for like Wi-Fi and stuff and gyms.
Oh, really?
What's it called?
I don't know. Accommodation tax?
No. So in many states in the US, they've got an occupancy tax or transient occupancy tax or room tax or tourist development tax. So Florida, apparently, they have lots of tourist development tax. So it's a local state tax added to the top of the room rate to cover the right to occupy or use hotel facilities. And the percentage varies widely by location. So something like that could potentially work. But again, I'm not sure we should be putting people off coming.
I don't know. Like when you go to a ski resort, you have to pay for a lift pass. And the lift pass covers all the infrastructure of that place. You know, like we've got the National Trust and we've got parks, and we've got things that are lots of free space, haven't we?
Yeah.
And then privately owned car parks. So it's a bit of a mess, really.
Yeah.
When I'm chief councillor of the Lake District, things will be different. We'll have a zip wire over Thirlmere for a start.
And the last rumour we've got to discuss today is new property sales tax. A report suggests the Chancellor is considering replacing stamp duty with a property sales tax for homes over $500,000. Proposed rates range between 0.54% to 0.81%. Zoopla highlights that such speculation is already raising buyer hesitation, particularly in markets like London and the South East. One London agent warns these rumours have already led to 20% of agreed sales collapsing in August as buyers pull out amid uncertainty. That's not true.
20% of what? One?
Well, so let's explain what this means. So new property sales tax will switch the
Obligation.
Not obligation, is it obligation? Well, the tax burden, I guess, yeah, from the buyer of the property to the seller of the property.
Okay.
So why would 20% of buyers pull out? Anyway, so I actually think this is a fairly good idea. Reason being is that it won't actually change much. So let's say there's a house for £1 million and the stamp duty on that, just use round figures, is £15,000 to the buyer. They have to find £15,000 cash. I think it's more than that, isn't it?
Because you can't get a mortgage on it.
Because you can't get a mortgage on it. If it all of a sudden goes on the seller, prices are going to go up slightly. It's not going to go to 1.0015, but prices overall across the board will go up because the seller won't want to lose that. Yeah. But then they've got the cash to instantly go, yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
So affordability will go up from the buyer's side because they will then have more cash to put down. And property prices will go up, which is good for agents.
Yeah,
As agents, we don't mind prices going up, do we?
No. And if you look as well across things like new homes developments, they regularly include stamp duty.
Yeah.
Don't they? So there is a culture of already doing that economically. It's obviously commercially viable for them. It's basically a discount, isn't it? Because they're going to have to still pay it. But I think switching it to the seller is a smart move.
It is, yeah. And it's something that we've looked into at AJ, whereas instead of adjusting the prices as a step one, change it to the seller will pay the stamp duty.
Stamp duty included.
If it was on a primary home basis, on a second home,
Or
it
even
get
on a
bit high.
negotiation basis, even if if you're stuck in negotiations, it could be the thing that swings it. Because then they go, oh, I don't have to pay that chunk of money in cash. I don't have to find it.
So you're negotiating on buying a £1 million house. Stamp duty is around 40,000 for £1 million house. You've always got that in the back of your mind. You've got to find it.
Well, not only that, you've got to have it in cash, which makes it doubly painful.
Yes, it's always there. Whereas if it's on the seller side, you know exactly what you can borrow using a mortgage, and you've got that extra 40,000 that can be spent on the house. It's not in your psyche to.
No, but I wonder if we're going to
the higher the offer, the higher the stamp duty.
I wonder if we're going to get down vals though from surveyors as sellers try and cover it. So I was thinking about my friend's son who was trying to build a little property portfolio. When he went to buy his second house, he obviously had to pay stamp duty on it, and that was something he hadn't accounted for in his sums. So if the seller had suddenly put the price up and they included stamp duty, and if surveyors see this, they might get some undervals.
Yeah, I don't think so, because
It was about $7,500 he needed to find.
yeah, I'm not sure a surveyor. Well, depends on the surveyor, but it'd be rare a surveyor would downval by $7,500.
I don't know, because if you've got Preston all the way along the road,
Depends on the price point, doesn't
and
it?
it's 250,000, and then all of a sudden one is 260,000 to cover stamp duty,
Yeah,
and it's exactly the same.
yeah.
nick,
I suppose they could do.
It could be an underval. At our level of the market, people don't really notice it. 40 grand on
Yeah,
$1 million
No.
property, nobody's going to notice that.
no.
But it is going to make. I wonder if it makes sellers more reticent about selling. But it's definitely going to free up the buying market.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's for them to bring it in, it's going to take quite a lot of time, and from everything I've read, it would take them another term to bring it through. I'm not sure they're going to get that.
No, maybe not. Well, you know what to do next time. Vote Conservative. This is not a political podcast. Other political parties are available. But for those of you who voted Labour, then this is your mess.
I was thinking about this last night, and like how many people that vote in the country have any idea what specifically they're voting for? What do you think the percentage is?
Well, I think that they don't think about the consequences of the vote. A bit like Brexit.
I think there's some people that there's probably 2% of the population that look into policies, understand the policies, understand the impact, understand the thinking, and then they vote. I think there's probably 10% of the population that, which is probably where I sit, vote on traditional ideology of the party.
Yeah.
And where they should be sending policies.
Yeah, i.e. left, right, or middle.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And then there's, I think, whatever's left, 88% of the population that vote on whichever paper they read, social media they read.
What their parents vote for.
Or who they like.
Yeah. Which is where I've got difficulty, because I actually really like our local MP. I think he does a lot for our local economy. But he's Lib Dem, and I'm never going to vote for a Lib Dem in terms of policies, because their policies are just play policies, aren't
Yeah.
they? Because they're never going to get in.
Yeah.
This is turning out to be quite contentious.
No, I have a very good friend who sits on the left in the 2% section where he knows every policy, and I appreciate that that's his belief. So
Is he an employee?
he was actually an employee of an MP. But he's not anymore.
That's quite funny.
Yeah. But so I'm cool with people voting. Obviously, I'm cool with it. With the cat doing about it, voting any way they want, as long as like
They understand the
understand what it means and what the ideology behind it is and what they want to achieve, and that's absolutely cool. It just frustrates me how even my wife will go, oh well, I shouldn't be voting for him, should I? Because he did this, because he had a party, and like, he's not even going to be there, you know. So yeah, it's going totally off track here. But
Well, we kind of aren't, because ultimately this budget is a result of everybody that's voted for this, this party, and therefore you're going to have to cope with this fallout if some of these are brought in.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough few years, I think.
Well, a lot of the big economists across the world have forecast we are in a kind of global recession for the next few years, haven't they?
Yeah, and I'm not sure, as we've said, I'm repeating it now, but I'm not sure taxing the hell out of us is the way out of this.
I've got a question for you, and I don't know the answer to this, so this is just an open question. If we're in massive debt to other countries, aren't we? Like billions of debt, maybe even trillions, and so is America. But we lend money to America and they lend money to us. So who's got all these loans? And why is it not all cancelled out now? I mean, I know that the Middle East must have some massive loans. They must have loaned some massive money to poorer economies that they may never see back because they've got the cash to be able to do it. But there's a lot of reciprocal loans that don't seem to make any sense to me now.
I think that a lot of it is where the government loan them to or create guilt
And then sell the guilt.
and effectively sell the guilt to the population, and therefore that creates debt.
So it's internal debt.
I think most of it is internal debt, so it's like debt within debt.
I thought it was a lot of external debt though as well.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it enough.
On the next podcast episode, I bet you can't wait to hear the results of our research on
It's
this.
a good question, and I have thought of it before, and I'm sure I've looked into it, and it said if they wipe the debt, it would cause either ridiculous inflation or the opposite.
Deflation and recession.
Yeah, because it's effectively quantitative easing
Yeah,
at mass scale.
yeah, it is. Interesting.
I could be totally wrong there.
But we were talking about house prices the other day and how they've gone up over the years. Because my first house in 1986, I was 18 when I bought my first house. 87, I think it was. And I paid 30k for it. And if you're as old as me and you listen to this, that's probably what you paid for your first house as well. And I sold it 9 months later for about 33,000 and thought I was minted. Now, if you look at that same house, that's probably worth 10 times that. And in your area, that's probably the same. That over those 30, 40 years, you've probably got a 10x rise. But how can that continue to be true? Because if you've got £1 million house now, that's not going to be worth £10 million in 40 years' time, or is it? Like the first year we were open, I think there was 9 houses sold for over £1 million in that year. And I think last year in our area, there was 22. And that is inflation. It's not the number of houses that are being sold. It's suddenly there's another 14 houses worth over £1 million. So where's that going to end?
Who knows?
And I wonder if CGT, when they're talking about CGT, they're trying to stop house price inflation. But actually, house price inflation earns a fortune for the government.
In stamp,
yeah, in stamps. So they'd be pretty stupid to do it.
Yeah, they would.
And also in inheritance tax. They're all massive tax earners for the government. In fact, we looked it up, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago, how much it earns for the government. Remember what it was? It was a percentage, wasn't it? It was like 10% of all.
It's about 12%, I think.
Yeah, of all income, government income.
Yeah. But that could be pushed up, wouldn't it?
Well, that's what they're trying to do, isn't it?
No, it could be pushed up through activity. Just come back to the question before. So the debt is owed mainly to those who buy and hold UK government bonds known as gilts.
Okay.
So it's effectively owed to yourself. Owed to like pension funds, insurance companies, Bank of England. So through quantitative easing programs, the Bank of England has bought a large portion of gilts.
But we own the Bank of England.
Yeah.
The government own it. So it's its own economy.
Yeah, when they release gilts, it promises it guarantees a income, doesn't it?
Yeah. And you also should be able to sell a gilt anytime you want, so then you can release it. Well, there's like 5-year gilts and 10 years gilts.
I think you've got to guarantee it for a time.
Where is the money? Where is the government money?
Where is the
Who
government
holds
money?
it?
Oh, I guess it's flowing through the economy.
Yeah, but it should be
It's not
somewhere,
held by
shouldn't it?
anyone.
But when we pay our taxes, where does that even go? And is there a bank account with all those taxes in it?
Yeah, there must be.
Well, nobody ever asks these questions. Where's our money?
Where does it go? Where can we break into?
Well, it's not literally sat there in gold, but it is somewhere on somebody's balance sheet, isn't it? So when they go to pay for things, how do they know which bank account to go to?
Well, it'll be HMRC Cumbernauld bank account.
Whoever's got
at
that
Bank of England. Yeah, if anyone's got that debit card.
Right, tune in another time for more economical confusion. Thanks for listening.
And political advice. It wasn't advice.
It is.